my name is Jennifer Mannebach. I'm a teaching artist with CAPE, Chicago Arts Partnership in Education. I've been working with a science teacher at Vaughn Occupational Academy with a class that's exploring color perception. So since our schools have closed, I wanted to provide another way that they could explore color at home using vegetable dyes. So you may not have paint at home, but maybe you can use some things you find at the grocery store for natural dyes, like onion skins, avocado pits. This is nice because you don't have to waste any bit of food since the pit's left over anyway. We have beets. Here's the beet cut open, and red cabbage. Miss Vaughn tells me that you're going to be studying plants soon, so that's another good reason to make plant dyes. So in addition to having a fun way to create color, you can see how your perception, how it looks to you, changes depending on what you paint or dye. These are some of the things I'm going to dye today. There's some fabric and watercolor paper. So the different reasons why the color might change a little. Sometimes it's just how long you soak it, but other times it's because of the type of paper or fabric that's absorbing it. And I will send these recipes to Miss Vaughn so she can share them with you. Here they are on the stove top. You can see the avocado pits were started last, so they haven't really started to release their color yet. So here they are. Here are all the colors from the vegetables I just showed you. This one's really vibrant. This is kind of expected because beets, usually if you've ever cut up a beet, you notice that you get a lot of color out of it right away, even before you boil it. So this is from beets. These two are actually from the same vegetable. They are both from red cabbage. And which is kind of surprising, right? Look at that. They don't look the same at all. So this one is from a typical dye of red cabbage with water and a little bit of vinegar. With this one, I added baking soda to it. So the baking soda made it less acidic, and then changed the color to this kind of greenish. It makes kind of a green or blue. And I'll show you a little bit more about that later. This one, this really vibrant, bright yellowy orange, is from onion skins. So that's a little bit unexpected. An onion skin, a yellow onion, has kind of that brownish skin. And it's a little like that, but a little bit more yellowy than you would expect. And this one is the one from the avocado pit. So remember, it's just the pit inside the avocado. Avocados, I think most of us have eaten them. They are wonderful, but you always think of that sort of green, beautiful interior. And you would never really think of this color coming from it, but this is what comes from the pit when you boil it. So what I did is I used some different fabrics and papers to see what, not only what colors you get from vegetables, but what do they look like on different kinds of textures and different kinds of materials. So this is the white plain material before I dyed it. Most of these have been sitting in here for a while, so I'm going to take a few out and show you. Now, if you want to, you can use gloves. The only thing that I find really stains are the beets, and it's not forever, it's not a big deal, but if you don't want to have, red tip fingers, you can use kitchen tongs or gloves. I'm not too concerned about it right now, so I'm just going to use my fingers. This is watercolor paper, so you can see how beautiful that is. It really looks like a paint. And this is why I want to show you guys this, because you might not have paints at home right now. You might not be able to get them, but you can get food, and you may choose to use an avocado pit or something like that, or the onion skins, because those are left over and you wouldn't eat those anyway. You might not want to choose to waste beets or red cabbage if you want to eat them, but if you want to use a little, you can. It's up to you. But at least with the other two, you're not wasting any kind of food because it's sort of left over from the food anyway. This is kind of a tightly woven fabric. So that's really beautiful. That's a couple hours of soaking. Now, if you wanted a lighter red or something a little more pink, you could leave it in for less time. This is actually a paper, but it's like a pressed paper product. It's got this pattern in it. So you could see how the white of the pattern stayed white, and the beets dyed the other texture a different sort of shade of red. This is more the same fabric. Let's see what else I put in here. All right, that might be that for that one. Okay, so there's those. That's with beets. I am going to wipe my hands a little bit in between. to contaminate the colors. All right, so here is this gorgeous green color from, believe it or not, the cabbage. So again, this is cabbage with baking soda. This is watercolor paper again. We've got fabric. So see, oh, this fabric is a little different. Let me show you this. This is a pattern of dots, of circles, which it's all like this sort of polyester cotton weave, except the weave is a little bit different in the circles. So you can see how that shows up differently with the dye. And I've got this, what else do I have in here? Ooh, I've got this one. Let me see if I can pull it out separately. All right, this is part of an old curtain. So this one was a lot thicker, and you could see it was denser. It took up a lot more color. It's a lot darker. So that's a really good example of how different textures changes your perception of color, and how it's all green, but it looks a little different depending on what it's on, what soaked it up. All right, then we have the other red cabbage one. We got watercolor paper. We've got fabric. There's again that dot fabric. It's kind of a lavender. And, a little surprise, got this. So what I did with this is I took an oil pastel, which is basically like a glorified crayon. It's sort of a heavy, it's an oil pastel, so it's a little different than a crayon. It's a little thicker, it sits up differently, but you can use a crayon as well. It's a waxy kind of resist. So when the paper is dry and white, you can write your message on there. You can have used it with white crayon, and then you dip it in your dye, and then it'll show up. Even more so in contrast, because the dye will not seep into the areas where the crayon was. So I just wrote thank you because I'm thinking a lot about, you know, I have a thank you sign on my door right now because we have, you know, people delivering mail and people sometimes delivering packages, and it's nice to remember to say thank you because their jobs are really, really hard right now. So, you know, if you want to write a little message or something on your door, a lot of people are doing that right now. It's a nice thing to do. Okay, on to the onions. Onion skins, actually. So you're not gonna put the whole onion in here, just the skin, but look at that. That is watercolor paper. That's been there for a few hours, so that is just like so incredibly brilliant and beautiful. I'm gonna set this down for a second so I can use both my hands. There's some fabric, a little different, not quite as bright and intense as you can see. Here is the textured sort of paper cloth, I guess you want to call it. It's actually paper, but it's pressed like a cloth. And here is the thicker sort of curtain material. So that gives you an idea of the different ways to look at that color. All right, I'm gonna move this over. Okay, and this one, last one, is the avocado pit. So again, I just kind of have these to show you for now. That is the paper product. This is really cool. That's that fabric. But I also, prior to this, had used this before. And so I have some other examples to show you. So that's in for less time, varying amounts of time. This is on a thicker paper, and this is on a different weave of fabric for less time. So you can see the difference there and how they look. So if you're really interested in this, you can play with this and see how long things take to make the color that you want. One more thing I want to show you is I'm going to take some of this purpley red cabbage dye and carefully pour it on here. Hopefully it won't spill. Okay. It's not really a bowl. It's kind of a shallow plate, but we're going to use it. Okay. So I got this color from adding baking soda, and I'm going to try to do that again, but do it in front of you here. Let's put a little bit more in there. And I'm going to put a little bit in at a time to see if it will change color. Stir that around a little bit. A little bit more. Let's Changing a little more. Getting a little more of a blue purple. All right, so you can see now you have 3 colors from one cabbage. You have this kind of reddish purple, and this bluish purple, and this green. So that's pretty cool. And you can talk to Miss Boness later about pH and you know, an acid and a base and what that means, because that's basically what's happening with this cabbage here, is how the color is changing. So that's what I want to show you, and we'll talk a little bit more about what you could do with this hopefully when I see you next at some point. And you can also paint with some of these too. So hey, especially this one. If you want to just take a paintbrush, instead of using it as a dye, you could use it as a paint. Kind of works like watercolor. All right. So here are just a few pieces of avocado dyed paper that I've used in my own work. Those stripes that you saw, those are cut paper. They're collage. Remember, we did a little collage in class. There's a little bit more. And they're combined with other materials like painted paper, wood, fabric, paint. And that's how I've used them in my work. So I just wanted to show you a little bit of that. So have fun trying things on your own. Let me know how it goes. Bye.